Do you want to hear something strange? What if shame isn't about you needing to understand the why, but rather your body just begging to let it go? What if that urge to hide isn't some character flaw, but rather a learned behavior your body has learned from life that give you the ability to feel safe in that stillness? And what if movement, not insight, is what will actually help your body be able to regain that safety again and get back into what you do best? So if you are looking to be able to step into your own divine authority, recognizing that shame isn't about who you are, but simply about learned experiences your body has received, and now it's just time we change up the pattern. And if you're ready to take tangible steps you can implement today, then let's dive deep. Welcome to where you are finally able to get unstuck and experience nervous system peace that is integrated into your everyday life as your new normal. Because transformation is a way of life here, and yours begins now. So if you've ever felt shame before, it's not something that announces itself boldly. It's something that is seen through those shoulders as they roll forward, and just you feel that energy of just not enoughness and just like something is wrong with you. And when you are able to recognize that you are internalizing these thoughts that is eliciting this physiological reaction in your body, that's when we can start to dial in, figure out what is really going on in the internal dialogue, so that then you can make the changes you wish to see in your life ultimately, because it's not about fixing something. It's about gaining awareness and utilizing that information to apply it accordingly. Because today is about letting the body finally finish everything it was intended to, but where it probably got stuck or frozen along the way due to some overwhelming and overstimulating event. You don't need to try right now. Less than 5 minutes is all it takes to reset your body. Go ahead and comment reset, and we will send you the direct link right over. This is why getting into rhythmic movement becomes really beneficial. And that's really what we're going to go to first today. Because when we can create movement in the body that is safe, our body can get out of that stuckness and back into that flow. You've ever heard the physics principle, an object in motion will stay in motion until an equal or greater force interferes, right? And causes it to slow down and or stop, or even go the opposite direction. We are no different with our energy. So when we can get our body moving in motion, like for instance, one of my favorite hacks for productivity is if you're stuck or you're like really, if you're in that frozen state, right? Give yourself even 1 minute of work. That's all you have to do. 1 minute. That's it. Which, I mean, sounds absurd. You can't even do 1 minute of focused work. Like, what? But for someone who's in a frozen state because their nervous system is stuck, that actually is a very hard task. And so when you can recognize, I'm able to do 1 minute and then I can quit. What happens is once you start getting into that momentum, come 45 seconds, 50 seconds in, the body is already falling into this pace, because then once your body is in that movement, it makes it easier to stay in motion. And that's ultimately what we're doing today. So if you're feeling that shame, it's because there's something stuck energetically going on within you, likely tied to a thought loop that is energetically appearing. You could even be having sensations. Oftentimes, if we are willing to go quiet and quiet our mind and ask ourselves, what is going on with me? Where am I at today? Where do I need to even address maybe things that are happening within my body? Maybe you're just feeling achy all over and you're like, WTF is happening? What do I need to address? Because this feels icky. I don't like this. I want to change this. And so tuning into that and being willing to be vulnerable with yourself and recognizing, oh, that's the thought that's playing out today. Oy, okay, well, let's fix this and change it into something that's more productive or more in alignment of what I want to create instead. So that's going to be the first thing we're going to be doing today. And that is simply recognizing the existence. And I'm not even saying necessarily giving it like names or whatever, just when you feel that sensation of shame, oh, there's that old thought again. However, I'm allowed to be here. You're free to relax. Inhale and exhale. Go ahead and comment reset, and we will send you the direct link right over, even in my mess. And that's okay. When we are able to, instead of like, oh, I'm not supposed to be here, or what's wrong with me, or I don't know, something else, right, that's creating shame over there, we're not fixing anything. We're not, trying to make something new or think our way into it, because if you haven't noticed already, your thoughts alone you're not going to be able to think yourself out of it. This logic your way out of it is what I often say. You can't think or logic your way out of the situation, because it is a physiological state of being inside your body that is causing you to feel this way. And if you look at the acupuncture meridians, the traditional Chinese medicine, the TCM, I think they do a phenomenal job at mapping where the different emotions can store and lie. Because there's a lot of the stuff in my work, you'll hear me talk about, putting on pressure points and holding, different parts of the body to relieve stress, because it helps relieve the energy out of that spot that is stuck. And so this is a great way, if you're tuning into your body, like what's going on. If you have a TCM chart, you can look at it to see if there's any points that correlate. Something I do, I have my chart on the wall. I will look at if I or even a client or my kids or something is talking about, hey, this hurts, this aches, this whatever. When we are able to recognize, oh wow, there are different points and emotions correlated to this spot, we are able to further identify and make it abundantly clear exactly what it is that we are feeling. Or we can kind of be like, oh wow, does this emotional overwhelm feel, or, and be a little more specific, but like it's anxiety. Does this anxiety, does that work? Does that fit? Does that feel like it's a part of the story that's going on in my narrative? And yes or no, right? And it's, again, if you listen to the body, your body will tell you. Our bodies are amazingly intelligent. We just have to slow down and listen. And so when we are able to give our brain the ability to downshift from that hyperstimulation to safety through connecting with our body, giving ourselves permission to be in our mess, because again, we're not fixing anything. We're just witnessing ourselves, saying, yeah, I'm allowed to be here, flaws and all. That's something that I always tell my kids. I love you, flaws and all. Why? Because I love them even in their mess, because they're my babies. And that's that unconditional love a mom has with their kids, right? And so it gives my kids permission to be a mess. It gives my kids permission to cry. It gives my kids permission to have that ability to just be themselves. And if this is really hard for you, one thing you can do that I really love is when you feel that shame, if what I said before was like, ew, I don't like that, you can simply tell yourself something old is moving, which, hey, that's valid. I mean, you can't argue with that, because if you're feeling it, that literally means it's moving. And I want to label it as something old, as in no longer with me, or it's on its way out, right? Because it's old and it's being expelled. Something old is moving. And that's it. Let your brain latch onto it and be like, well, yeah, okay, something old is moving out of my body. That's why I feel it stirring up. And then the final step, once you've been able to figure out where you need to land with the actual speaking to you, because I want you to or say it out loud. So articulate it in a way that your body won't reject it, and you'll feel it. Like, especially if you do the first version I gave you and your body's like, ew, no, or you even feel like really big jolt of hesitation, or like, just like you'll feel it, your body, if it doesn't want to. That's when I want you to do the second one. But ideally the first version I gave you of like being really specific. However, once as you're saying it to yourself, I want you to move. So this is the second part. You might see me sometimes, especially I have a kid in my arm, doing kind of like this gentle sway, because this is such a great way I'm actually doing a light figure eight with my hips. I know you can't see it on the screen because it's forward facing, but that's another thing too, is it doesn't have to just be back and forth. I like the figure eight because the way the pelvis is moving, it helps hit different nerves that actually increases relaxation. But it can be a little awkward if it's something new to you. And so just the point is getting your body into a movement in which it feels safe to be there. Because again, we're giving our body permission to be present, flaws and all, in all our mess, and recognize that it's okay. I have a right to be here, flaws and all. And I'm just going to sit here and witness to myself, because you're going to feel things that are going to come up, and they're probably going to be uncomfortable, fair warning. And it's not that I'm trying to scare you. I want to prepare you, because when we are able to sit through the discomfort and come out on the other side of it, y'all, it's gold on the other side, because that gives us the ability to recognize our strengths, our mess, and give ourselves permission to be human, to be in that state, and recognize that we are, like, there's nothing wrong with you for being a human. Society puts shame, especially I think of like men crying. That's like one of the biggest things. Oh, you're shameful if you're a man who cries. Like, I can't even. I'm not even going to get on my soapbox because it's just such an appalling statement, especially to men, that I think tears them down so much because it especially tries to kind of like go at their manhood, essentially, like their masculinity as a man. And it's really disgusting, honestly. And I think it's a huge thing is like why men today in society do generally struggle with being vulnerable, because they think or feel vulnerability is a weakness. It's not a strength. And when you're able to recognize that within yourself and recognize the narratives of what's going on, we can give ourselves permission to be human without the shame. We can give ourselves permission to have flaws. And I'm not saying you should necessarily condone them or like it's the greatest thing, right? No. However, you can recognize that this is part of the human experience. And I'm always curious about what do you do on the other side of this flaw? What do you do on the other side of this mistake? How did you show up after the fact? Because at the end of the day, like we're all going to make mistakes. I made mistakes yesterday. I'm like, oof, like I need to deal with, right? And so it's not because I'm this perfect person, far be it from that. I just am willing to be accountable for my shit. And I think if we're all able to do that, it decreases the shame that is carried with it, which makes it easier to actually be accountable, because I don't think I'm a flawed human because I had a moment yesterday. I think I'm a flawed human in general, and that's okay. That's why I know I need Jesus, and I am open to say it, right? Because I know I'm not perfect, and I do pray about that. I do ask for intervention, and that's something too. If this is something, I'm saying this for a reason. Not that it's supposed to be like a preachy channel, but like if you don't have that relationship, you absolutely should tap into that, because it's one of the most beautiful things in the world that I've ever experienced. And having that relationship with Christ is literally life-saving. It will save your life. I promise you that. And it allows yourself to be open to be human without that shame, with that unconditional love, but still being held accountable. I think that's one of the highest forms of love, is to be willing to hold somebody accountable in their mess, but also sit with them in that mess and not run away just because they had a moment or they behaved a certain way, right? No, being willing to recognize that person, is capable of moving through that situation into something better. But of course, it is a choice. It is a human choice. What do they say? Judge them on their fruits or whatever. I don't know. But when you're able to recognize that someone does or doesn't have fruit, right? Like their fruits of their labor, you're able to witness to them where they're at, and then decide for yourself if this is someone who's in alignment for you. It may or may not be, is what it is. But when we're able to take away that shame and be vulnerable with ourselves to really see where we are at and where others are at, it gives the ability to move things out of your body. And so don't forget to head on over to our meditation that was related today. It was a walking meditation, I believe it was, and getting your body moving. Because even if you are physically swaying, even if you are in that movement, we have to give our bodies the ability to receive, ground into the situation, and not hold that cloud of shame over us, but rather give us the ability to receive that love from ourselves, that grace from ourselves, that mercy from ourselves, and thank you, Jesus, for that ability to know this, to have that wisdom, because it's one of the most powerful forms of wisdom you'll ever receive. So with that being said, jump on over to the meditation. Let me know down in the comments what y'all think, and I will catch y'all next time.